The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Rabbi Vevel Butman of the Lubavitch Youth Organization of Brooklyn, New York, will deliver today's invocation. Rabbi?
Almighty God, Master of the universe, bless the members of the New York State Senate to fulfill their divine and sacred mission to make the world a better place for all of humanity, to live by your divine will and divine providence in unity, peace, and harmony, with dignity and respect for every human being, for we are all created in your image. Guide them to be living examples of goodness and kindness, inspired by the 7 Noahide commandments which you gave to Adam and to Noah at the dawn of civilization. As recorded in your Holy Bible, in the book of Genesis, 1, to worship you alone and not to worship idols. 2, not to commit adultery, incest, sodomy, or any other abomination. 3, not to murder, and 4, not to eat and not to be cruel to any living animal. 5, not to blaspheme your holy name. 6, not to steal, not to lie or cheat. And 7, that every society should be governed by just and moral laws, which are based on the recognition and the acknowledgement of you, O God, as the sovereign ruler of every human being, one nation under God. Grant us, the members of the New York State Assembly and Senate, to enact laws in the awareness of your divine providence, recognizing that in establishing just laws, they are fulfilling your will. Bless the members of the New York State Senate with good health, clarity of mind, wisdom, compassion, and good fellowship. And may they always recognize that in establishing just laws, they are fulfilling your will. Bless us to be successful leaders, to serve and to strengthen our New York communities. Almighty God, we dedicate this prayer today in honor of the Rebbe and his birthday on the 124th anniversary and the 85th anniversary of his miraculous escape from Nazi Europe and his arrival to New York in 1941 with his wife, Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka Schneerson of blessed memory. From New York, the Rebbe established the world's largest Jewish global network with thousands of centers worldwide in more than 100 countries to welcome and to inspire all of humanity, to prepare and to usher in a world of peace, unity, and harmony, a world of redemption and Mashiach, as prophesied in your Holy Bible. You, Almighty God, have created every human being, regardless of race, color, or creed, and endowed each person with divine spark. Grant us the wisdom, leadership to ensure that every child is loved unconditionally and educated with morality, faith, and respect for all humanity, as it is written in our currency, in God we trust, reminding us that there is an eye that sees and an ear that hears. The Rebbe asks to publicize the prophecy that Mashiach is on the way, and Mashiach is ready to come now, and that we all have to do more acts of goodness and kindness, as Maimonides says, that every good deed can tip the global scale for the good. May we merit to see, Almighty God, a world of redemption, a world of peace, divine knowledge, and a life of joy, happiness, and purpose. So may it be your will, Almighty God, and together let us all say, Amen. Thank you. If I may, just for a moment, my father of blessed memory passed about 18 months ago. He would come here very often, Rabbi Shmuel Butman, once a year on behalf of the Lubavitch Youth Organization. And the Rebbe asked him to take a $1 bill and put it into the charity box to inspire us all that money is not only meant to take, but to give and to share. As the dollar bill reads, in God we trust, and there is an eye that sees. Thank you very much for your time.
Rabbi, you took my paper.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's terrible. I apologize.
Reading of the journal.
In Senate, Tuesday, March 24, 2026, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The journal of Monday, March 23, 2026 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. May we have some order, please? Presentations of petitions. Messages from the Assembly. The Secretary will read.
Senator Salazar moves to discharge from the Committee on Insurance Assembly Bill number 4677B. Is substituted for the identical Senate Bill 1670B, third reading calendar 484.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor. Reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator Gianeris.
Good afternoon, Madam President. We're going to begin by taking up some resolutions today. First up is previously adopted Resolution 1410 by Senator Harkam. Please have its title read and call on Senator Harkam.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1410 by Senator Harkam, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim March 29, 2026 as Vietnam Veterans Day in the state of New York.
Senator Harkam, 1 minute, please. May we have some order, please? Senator Harkam on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First, I want to thank our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, for bringing this resolution to the floor today and for her steadfast support of this event over the years. Today, I'm proud to rise to celebrate truly amazing Americans and New Yorkers, our Vietnam veterans. On Saturday, March 29th, we will once again be observing National Vietnam Veterans Day. This will be the 14th anniversary of this recognition, which was first proclaimed by President Obama back in 2012. So accordingly, I would like to welcome all of the Vietnam veterans who are here with us in the chamber today, a number of which are from Westchester and Putnam, and I will be introducing them all individually momentarily. I also want to thank my colleague in the Assembly, Assemblymember Matt Slater, for coordinating on the trip to bring folks up from our joint districts. More than 3 million Americans served our nation during the Vietnam War, and more than 58,000 sacrificed their lives. And today we pay homage to the brave men and women who served in the Vietnam War, knowing full well they served with tremendous courage and sacrifice. And yet when they returned home, they were not welcomed back as veterans from past wars were. They were largely scorned and denigrated for their service. And today we acknowledge that as a moral failure by our society. And many returned with physical and psychological scars, which was exacerbated by the fact that they were not welcomed with open arms. And yet, as we honor the veterans of the Vietnam War, it's important to emphasize that for many of these veterans, their service to our nation and their fellow veterans has been never-ending. When they returned stateside, many Vietnam veterans became active in their communities as first responders, in law enforcement, in education, elected officials, and business owners. And how these men and women returned home and dedicated themselves to the selfless care of their fellow service members and other residents is truly inspirational. And Vietnam veterans taught us that as individuals, we should offer our respect to service members, even if we do not support the politics behind the war or the conflict in which they fight. We don't have to support the wars to support the warriors. And most importantly, our Vietnam veterans determined that no generation of warriors should be treated as poorly as they were upon returning home from foreign conflict, that those who wear the uniform will be treated with the respect and dignity and get the benefits and services that they deserve. And thankfully, this nation has heeded their call. So among the many veterans here today from around New York State, I'm proud to introduce veterans here from Westchester and Putnam: Michael Bergen, Jerry Whitmore, Guy Hodges, my next-door neighbor, by the way, Lou Caldera, Carl Rohde, Director of the Putnam Veterans Service Agency, Antonio Costella, Steve Said, Michael Marks, Louis Ferrari, Liam Baker, Philip Federline, Peter Van Scoy, Al Roskoski, James Mecca, Robert Everett Jr., Melvin Satchel, Rafael Torres, Joe Hunt, Robert Fine, and Roya Terry. And to all of you, I say on behalf of a grateful nation and state, welcome home. We thank you for your selflessness, your sacrifice, and your courage. Madam President, Today, I offer into the record of our proceedings a resolution that the state of New York wishes to express to its Vietnam veterans the respect and appreciation they deserve, but not always get when they return home. So be it that this legislative body pause in our deliberations to recognize March 29th, 2024, or 2026, as Vietnam Veterans Day, and to thank our brave Vietnam veterans for their honorable service to our nation, to our communities, and to their brothers and sisters who did not return home. I proudly vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ashby on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Senator Harcum for bringing this resolution to the floor, and we are joined today by several Vietnam veterans and their families from the Capital Region, including Staff Sergeant David Demaray and his wife Connie, Airman First Class Jim Wendt and his daughter Carol, Airman First Class Jean Laporco, Sergeant Tom Marinello, Specialist Fifth Class Wesley Boyer and his wife Deborah. And it is important for us to remember that when our Vietnam veterans returned from home, they experienced an alternate reality. And I think for many of us who have deployed and experienced combat, that in itself is a different reality. And then to come back home and be treated the way that they were, I cannot imagine the state of confusion, the frustration, the angst that they experienced. But they continue to serve. They continue to serve each and every day, making sure that the future generations of veterans don't experience what they had to endure and still endure today. Those memories that they continue to experience, I'm sure, is what fuels their drive and the opportunities that we have each and every day here. I would also like to compliment OGS and our own Department of Veteran Services on the recent display in the Abrams Building on the mail call, is what it's called. And it's correspondence of letters going back and forth to family members and veterans during Vietnam. And there was one that I'd like to share today, Madam President, if you'll indulge me, that I think that we should remember during our times and deliberations here. It's from Tyrone S. Pannell to his daughter. Dear Tracy, I find it very hard to begin this letter. The things I want to say to you can never be fully expressed in words. I so much want to say the right things. I want to say the things that will make you understand how very much I love you. Before you were born, like most men, I wanted a son, but when I saw you for the first time, just a few minutes old, I knew. I could never love a son the way I loved you, for a son grows and becomes a man while a daughter is always a child, to be loved and cared for. More than anything, I want you to know me and love me. I want the love that will grow between us to be one of understanding, just as the love that exists between your mother and I. The next time I see you, you will be a little lady, walking and talking. Learn how to say, Daddy, I love you with all my heart. Love, Daddy. On November 30th, 1965, Tyrone Pannell was killed in action 6 months after his wife Marlene had given birth to their little girl. And this letter's recipient, Tracy Renee. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Steck on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, would like to rise and thank Senator Harcum for bringing this resolution forward to commemorate March 29th as Vietnam Veterans Day here in the state of New York. As my colleagues have already said, we owe a great deal of debt and gratitude to all of our veterans, and especially those that were disrespected and their value wasn't shown to them upon their return from Vietnam. I know a lot of Vietnam veterans, and I'm thankful for their leadership and their example and their service and their sacrifice. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out and thank a Vietnam veteran that's very, very special to me, my own father, who served in the Marine Corps in Vietnam. And so, Dad, I love you, and thank you for your service and sacrifice. Thank you for your fatherhood and trying to make me into the person that I am. And again, to all our Vietnam veterans, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Zellner on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Harcum and Leader Stewart-Cousins, for bringing this resolution forward. Today, I rise to recognize Vietnam Veterans Day in New York and thank a generation of men and women whose service came at a complicated time in our nation's history and whose impact is still felt today. We remember those who lost their lives, and we recognize those who came home and had to move forward, often without the support they deserved. What they experienced didn't stay overseas. It became part of their lives around them. And what stands out is that they made they made sure no one else had to carry that experience. That's what we see in Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 77 in Tonawanda, New York, led by President Tom Thompson. With more than 700 members, including my friend, Councilmember Jim Sheasley, and retired Detective Dan Brady, they've created a place where veterans can rely on each other. They provide food, help connect veterans to resources, host events, and maintain a space where people can come together and stay connected, all through their own fundraising and commitment. It's simple, people showing up for each other. I've seen how service carries through families. My own family served in the Army in Vietnam. My uncles Robert and Joseph Mossage and my uncle Michael Zellner. Like so many families, that experience didn't end when they came home. It stayed with them and shaped the course of their lives in ways that were often heavy and complicated and deeply felt. So today, we recognize Vietnam veterans not just for their service, but for their lasting impact. And we affirm clearly and without question that they will never stand alone again. And I want to thank organizations like VVA Chapter 77 for the work they do every day to take care of those who served. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Borrello on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I also like to thank the sponsor for this resolution to honor our Vietnam veterans on Vietnam Veterans Day here in New York State. I rise as the son of a Vietnam veteran. My father, Anthony Borrello, and his only sibling, Frank Borrello, served in Vietnam. Prior to Vietnam, that would not have happened. They would never have taken the only 2 children. So obviously, for my grandmother, it was a disturbing couple of years with both of them being deployed in Vietnam. You know, this was a war fought by the working class, by people of color. This is who we sent there. And then when we came back, they did not get the respect that they deserve. They were the ones sent by our government to do this, and then they were treated like the ones that were, responsible. And it was wrong. But it created a new era of respect following that, a new era of respect for those who serve, for our military, for the greatest fighting force in the world. But because of the fact that they were never welcomed home properly, to this day, it is always appropriate to address a Vietnam veteran and say, welcome home. So to our Vietnam veterans that are here today, welcome home. God bless my family, my father, my uncle, my late uncle, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ryan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and Senator Harcum, thank you for bringing this, this resolution. I, too, want to thank all of our veterans for those that served with the utmost bravery, ran into conflict, served in the war. But I also want to say thank you, a shout out to my hero at home, my father, Patrick J. Ryan, who served. He was a union electrician, drafted, went and served as a Navy Seabee, and he was, fun fact, well, not a fun fact, but honorable, he was in the Tet Offensive. So I just want to give him a shout out at home. If you're there, if you're watching, which 100% chance you're not, just want to say thanks, Dad. Thank you for your service. I'm honored to be your son. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Adabo on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'd like to join my colleagues in acknowledging and thanking the courage and sacrifice of our Vietnam veterans today. And I want to thank Senator Harcum for giving us the moment to do so. We have heard it, that they answered the call that our country gave them, and unfortunately when they came back, it wasn't such a pleasant welcome. You know, we can say thank you. We can say thank you, we can acknowledge it, but to me, actions speak louder than words. Resolution is one way. But this body can put politics aside, and I love to be on the Veterans Committee because that's what we do. We can put politics aside, and now is our moment as legislators to shine and show the respect during the budget process and during the legislative process. So I really hope that when the budget dust settles, we have done what we could for our veterans, all veterans, today Vietnam veterans, and certainly during the legislative process. In my little neck of the woods in Queens County, we have one of the largest populations of veterans in the city, roughly 40,000, and a third of those are Vietnam veterans. So again, to understand that Veterans Day is not just one day of the year. In my opinion, it's every day of the year. We thank our veterans each and every day, and today we acknowledge and thank our Vietnam veterans. Thank you very much, Madam President. I'll be voting yes.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Chan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I would not be a United States Marine if I didn't rise today to thank my predecessors, whom I've known many of in the United States Marines. I spent about 3.5 years in Marine Corps Air Station New River, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I spent 7 months on the United States vessel USS Guadalcanal, as well as the USS Austin. And I want to thank our Vietnam veterans for teaching me my trade, because I learned a lot from you. I learned to be that rough and tough United States Marine, that guy, a force in readiness from guys like you. So I just wanted to extend to you guys my personal thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Comrie on the resolution.
I rise today to thank Senator Harkin for continuing a tradition that's important in our Senate and important in this country, that we recognize our Vietnam veterans for their service, that we acknowledge the mistakes that were made when they return home, and as Senator Dabo said, that we do everything we can as legislators to ensure that the veterans are now getting the services and resources that they need. One of which is restoring and helping to restore some of the VA centers and posts that are in desperate need of repair, some of which go back to not having been repaired since the 70s. So I hope, as Senator Dabo said, we can put actions to words, but we need to put actions to deeds as well, by making sure that our veterans in the twilight of their years can have the best of their years by having facilities that are worthy of their service, worthy of their time. You know, I just missed the draft. I graduated from school just as the draft was ending. That was one of the happiest times of my life, to tell you the truth. I didn't have to go, but I have to salute all of the men and women that went, that sacrificed their lives, and are still sacrificing their lives today. So we must do what we can to honor our veterans. I say aye to the resolution. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Harkin, for this, excuse me, for this really important resolution. This is one of these nice moments in this chamber when there's not a partisan bone in here. We get to speak about heroes, and thank you for doing what you did, signing up to save people that you never met, that you didn't know, and would never know, but you signed up anyway, and you saved them, and you saved our country during that. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for never forgetting what this country is supposed to be and those ideals, and you carry it out every single day. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We can't forget you. And Senator Harkin and also Senator Scarcella-Spanton and Assemblymember Diaz over in the other chamber have spoken about a campaign to end veteran poverty. And so many of our vets live in poverty. So many of our vets can't make ends meet. And I think that's atrocious for people who literally have laid their lives down for strangers. And so we have to do better, not just in this chamber, but in every state house around the country, to make sure that people who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in their families are able to be taken care of. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your existence. And thank you for your bravery. I vote aye on the resolution, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Tedesco on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, today, as we salute our Vietnam veterans, I think by extension we have to remember all the men and women. I call them the best, the brightest, most courageous fighting force for good in the world, the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. And we've talked about our heroes. The men and women here are our heroes. And I think of my dad, who was Tech Sergeant Nicholas Tedesco, served in Helena, New Guinea in World War II. And today I also had the opportunity to thank one of my constituents. He's from the 44th Senatorial District. He's Airman First Class Jim Wendt. And we had a nice discussion about his service, and I thanked him and showed his appreciation. But we also talked about the fact, and it has been mentioned here, it seems two different camps grow in any war or battle. This is a good war, or this is a bad war. I think we'll agree there are no good wars. People die in war. Americans die in war. Our enemies die in war. So when they came back and they said this was a bad war, well, there may be necessities for wars, and we can debate the necessity for a war, but we can never say our men and women served and put their lives on the line and left their families because it was a good war or a bad war. They didn't cut and run. They didn't cut and run. Their country said, our freedom and liberty in some way or those of others that we respect so much is on the line. And they served. Now, in the back of their mind, they may have thought, I don't think I should be here. I don't think this is a necessity. But the United States of America and what it stands for and what we fought to build here from the very beginning of our founding fathers, they believed in so much that they said, those who are in our government, who send us here, we're going to go to protect this great nation and to protect freedom and liberty. And I think we have to show tremendous respect for that, because that's why we have and live in the greatest and freest nation in the world. A lot of other countries who were born with these inalienable rights, maybe they have a great document there, they have their own constitution, they have their own type of Declaration of Independence, but they don't live the freedoms and liberties we do in this nation at the highest level of, I believe, any group of individuals in any part of the world. So today I thank Airman First Class Jim Wendt. I thank all those Vietnam veterans here who said, I can make any decision I want about that, but my country and what it stands for is something I'm willing to put my life on the line for. And I thank you all, past, present, and future. And if Dad is watching, I thank him for giving me the life I've had here. And I show the appreciation for all you've done for us. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Fahey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I see a couple of old friends up in the galleys, so I just want to join my colleagues in paying this extraordinary tribute to such extraordinary men and women that I've had the privilege of getting to know over the last good few years. I'm also old enough to remember when our country did not give the welcoming, especially to our Vietnam veterans. And so I do think it is so important that we continue to show our extraordinary gratitude, to make amends, if you will, for the times when we didn't show that extraordinary gratitude. So it's wonderful to see Serviceman Marinello and Luparco. And I just need to add what's so remarkable about them, as well as so many other veterans, is that they come back and they keep serving. So it is embodied in their very being, this service before self. And it's something that I'm so glad that we are honoring here today, because I think it's something that all of us need to be reminded of, that what has made this country what it is because of those who have served in such an incredibly selfless way, but they really embody this spirit of service before self, and they come back and continue to serve the community in such an extraordinary variety of ways. So I too am in their debt, and to stand here with deep, deep appreciation. I thank our colleague, Senator Harckham, for bringing this resolution to the floor. Thank you. With that, I'm in support, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Lanza on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. First, let me thank Senator Harckham for continuing this, what I believe to be very important tradition, especially here in the New York State Senate. Senator Bailey talked about the fact that today we're all together, and we ought to be proud. And he's right. I'm going to remind you of a few more reasons why every member in this Senate should have special pride in this day, and why New Yorkers should be especially proud of Vietnam Veterans Day. When I was first elected here, I was approached by a Staten Island Vietnam veteran named Lester Modelowitz. He came to me and said, "We're trying to establish Vietnam Veterans Day here in New York and across the nation, and we're meeting a lot of resistance. Would you write the bill?" And of course I did. I came in, I'm not sure if everyone's aware, I came in, my class, if you will. I had the privilege of coming in with Majority Leader Stuart Cousins and my brothers, Senator Griffo. And as Senator Bailey alluded, when we wrote this bill, we came together immediately. And we worked together. And we lobbied our colleagues in this body, and it wasn't hard to do. We talked to our friends in the Assembly. Assemblyman Matt Titone carried the bill there. We spoke to the governor, then Governor Patterson, and we convinced him. And we did it together. There were no Republicans, there were no Democrats. There were friends, there were colleagues, there were people who recognized that a wrong was done and we needed to do something about it. So as you know, on March 29th, 1973, just a little background, why did we do it this way? The last combat troops came home from Vietnam. And has been said, it's an understatement to say they weren't treated well. They were treated horribly. What happened at that moment and thereafter was shameful on behalf of the so many in this country that just were lost in the way they treated them. So we wrote that law. It was passed here, passed in the Assembly. Governor Patterson signed it. And the following year, in 2009, the first Vietnam Veterans celebration occurred on Staten Island. We then, this body, many who are not here anymore, a few of us are, we then lobbied other states to do the same. We had Rolling Thunder assist us. Legislative bodies from around the country reached out to us to talk about it. And one by one, states across the land did the same thing. Finally, on March 28, 2017, President Trump signed the Vietnam Veteran War Recognition Act. And so now it is the law of the land in America. You know, 2.7 million U.S. soldiers served in country during the war. More than 6 million served in other capacities. More than 60,000 U.S. soldiers lost their lives. I mean, think about that number. 60,000 U.S. soldiers lost their lives. I do an event every year on Staten Island. We do a collage of the Staten Islanders who lost their lives. And as I get older, the photos get younger. And what you see is that the people who fought for us, remember, put the politics aside, put the war aside even, those Americans sacrificed and lost their lives to stand up for that flag and everything it represents. And when we do this ceremony, and I look at this video that my staff prepares with the help of the Vietnam Veterans chapter of Staten Island, they were 18 years old Majority Leader. 18-year-old, dare I say kids. I'm old, I could say it. When I was young and being taught about the Vietnam Veterans War by the adults that had the responsibility to do it, I didn't hear anything good about the veterans. I didn't. I'm a child of the 70s. In fact, I heard everything bad. You would have thought that they didn't serve honorably, courageously, bravely, effectively, successfully, and that's a lie. We all know the major battles, the Battle of La Drang, the Battle of Khe Sanh, the Tet Offensive, Hamburger Hill, Easter Offensive. You know what they all have in common? The American soldiers won every single battle, the major battles and the minor battles. They won every battle they were sent in to fight. You know, President Kennedy sent the first troops in. We now know he had no mind to escalate. Nixon ultimately ended it. President Johnson escalated it, in my opinion, mismanaged it. But none of those, whether you liked the president, didn't like the president, liked the war, didn't like the war, none of those things were ever legitimate, honest excuses to hate the troops, and that's what happened. So, Madam Leader, Majority Leader, why did we do this? You remember. People came to us and said, well, we have Veterans Day. Newspaper outlets said, why do we need this day? The answer was simple. Something different and shameful happened to these troops when they came home. We've all talked about it. Thanks to whatever, the craziness of the time, craziness which we see revisiting. You had Hollywood elites. It's easy from their towers to say what they said at the time. You had warped, in my opinion, politicians not saying the right things. You had scurrilous members of academia really preaching the hate. And you go back, you could read all about it, you could see it. I remember as a kid seeing Jane Fonda on an anti-aircraft gun pointed up in the sky meant to shoot 21-year-old American flyers out of the sky. It's hard to believe, but then again, you look out the window today, it's easy to believe. So we did it because something different happened, and we needed to do something about it. My faith teaches me that when you do something wrong, you should have contrition, that you should resurrect good from darkness. And I think that's what this does. I think we need to educate. By having this day, we remind our fellow Americans, especially our young fellow Americans, this should never happen again. And we do that a lot in this chamber with various things. And I think most of all, it allows us every single year to say thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you to our troops. Thank you to our veterans. And as Senator Harkin and my colleagues have already said, welcome home, welcome home, welcome home.
Thank you, Senator. Leader Stewart-Cousins to close.
Thank you so much, Madam President. And, you know, when I came out, there were maybe 2 or 3 names on the list who were going to speak about the Vietnam War veterans and what they mean to us and to this chamber. And of course, as people got up and spoke, more and more wanted to make sure that there was no question about how we, as a chamber, we who are the beneficiaries of your sacrifice, your bravery, and your courage, feel about you and what you've sacrificed. So I am glad that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to indulge us as we thank you, welcome you back, and let you know that the history of what you fought for, who you fought for, and how you were treated is acknowledged by people who, again, sit in these chambers because of your courage. Last week, we had cadets from West Point, and it's hard to look at these young people knowing that who knows what battle they'll go into, especially in a time like this, and not think about what we already know to be true. War is hell, it's ugly. A lot of times people send people to do things that they think might be a good idea, and people like you are left to bring the valor, to put everything on the line, and hope you survive. I want to thank Senator Lanza for bringing back the history of how this day came. And yes, we were in the same class together. And it was an easy vote for everyone. And it was easy for me because I have had the privilege of being a child in a military family. My dad was a World War II veteran, Purple Heart, Bronze Star. And again, he served in a segregated army. And when he came home, he came back to a segregated country. He wasn't thanked. He didn't care. He knew that his service was important. My brother is a Vietnam War vet, Marine. And he came back, he wasn't welcome back either. So it is a privilege to be part of a body that recognizes how important it is that we have people in this country who, despite what the chattering classes says, despite what the masses might say, still have enough fidelity to this country and its ideals to show up. And I thank you for that. I want to thank Senator Harckham for always sponsoring this day and bringing this resolution forward. And I also want to give a shout out to the chair of our Veterans Committee, Senator Jessica Scarcella-Spanton, to also as the ranker, Senator Ashby, and all of the veterans here. And say especially to our Vietnam veterans, I know there's many from Yonkers who you grew up, you know, raise your hand, let me know. Yonkers in the house, no, yes? Over there? Here you go, oh, thank you. But I know that you represent so many who couldn't be here for all those reasons. If you're like my brother, you're not looking for accolades. He's like, I know so many people, of the 60,000 that Senator Lanza referred to, so many were his friends. He served with them. The fact that he survived was almost good enough for him. And I know the humility of those who serve. The fact that you're survived, the fact that you're here, the fact that you could enjoy days with your loved ones, serving your community, that's almost enough gratitude. But we are here to tell you that we know that it's never enough. And the commitment to continue to honor our servicemen and women is alive and well in this chamber. You will always be welcome here. You will always be welcome back. And we will continue to push forward the policies that allow not only you, but the next generations of those who would devote the full measure to our liberation and our freedom as Americans also enjoy the same. Welcome back, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Leader Stewart-Cousins. To our Vietnam veterans, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. We appreciate you. We say welcome home. On behalf of the Senate, we extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. Welcome home. Senator Gineris.
Madam President, I believe that resolution was previously adopted.
The resolution was previously adopted on January 21st.
Let's move on to another previously adopted resolution, Resolution 1555 by Senator O'Mara. Please read that resolution's title and recognize Senator O'Mara.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1555 by Senator O'Mara, honoring investigator Michael Thetke of the Chemung County Sheriff's Office upon the occasion of his designation as a recipient of the Order of the Blue Heart Award from Wounded Blue.
Senator O'Mara on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to honor investigator Michael Thetke of the Chemung County Sheriff's Department Criminal Investigation Division. In keeping with our longstanding tradition of recognizing exceptional service, this legislative body is proud to honor Investigator Thetke as the recipient of the Order of the Blue Heart Award from Wounded Blue, the national organization supporting law enforcement officers injured or disabled on the job. He was also presented earlier today with the 2026 New York State Senate Commendation Award for his courage and dedication to our community. Investigator Thetke has served with distinction for more than 14 years, exemplifying courage, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to public safety. Tragically, 2 years ago, on March 29th, he sustained a severe, near-life-ending on-duty injury while apprehending a suspect. Chasing a suspect across the parking lot, a getaway car pulled up. Investigator Thetke tackled the perpetrator onto the hood of that vehicle. The driver accelerated across the parking lot and turned sharply, throwing Investigator Thetke and the perpetrator to the pavement on the parking lot. He ended up with a fractured skull, a brain bleed, and multiple injuries and fractures to virtually every section of his spine, from cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. Required extensive hospitalization and rehabilitation, and in fact, just recently has undergone several spine surgeries to get him to where he is today. Investigator, please rise. These investigator is joined here by his wife, Patrice. They are the parents of 2 boys, 4 and 7. The evening of this injury, Patrice was told by the doctors, say goodbye. Well, he survived. And about a week later, started coming out of a coma. And at that point, the doctors told Patrice, he's never going to walk. Be prepared for that. He's walking today. He's amongst us, and he wants to return to the job that he loves. Currently on a 207C disability, he still wants to come back when he's able to this with his injuries. Beyond his role in investigation, he served as commander of the Chemung County SWAT team, providing leadership for high-risk operations.
He's been an instructor training the next generation of law enforcement officers, and he was the first drug recognition expert in his department, earning the highest grade point average in his training class. He served on the New York State Threat Assessment Management System team, helping to safeguard schools and local businesses. As president of the Deputy Sheriff's Union, elected by his peers, he had earned the respect and confidence of all who served alongside him. Therefore, Madam President, as Investigator Thickey embodies the integrity, courage, and selfless service, his dedication has left an enduring impact on the Chemung County Sheriff's Office, our community, and the people of this great state. It is my honor to ask this legislative body to pause in its deliberations to commend Investigator Michael Thickey for his outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to public safety, and to extend him all of the courtesies and privileges of the House. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Investigator Thickey.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Chan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator O'Mara, for bringing forth this resolution. To Investigator Thickey, I think I told you earlier that I'm also a retired law enforcement agent with the NYPD of 27 years. I feel compelled to stand up here and thank you for laying down the sacrifices that you did, and that's all I wanted to say. I know how fast things can turn south out in the street, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. To Investigator Thickey, thank you for your service. We wish you the very best of health. I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please continue standing and be recognized. The resolution was adopted on February 10th. Senator Gianaris.
Next up is previously adopted resolution 1794 by Senator Ramos. Please read that title and recognize Senator Ramos.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1794 by Senator Ramos, commemorating the 115th anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire on March 25, 2026.
Senator Ramos on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. When we talk about New York, we often talk about its skyline, its energy, and its promise, and all of that is made possible by workers. On March 25th, 1911, New York was forced to confront what happens when those workers are treated as disposable. 146 people lost their lives at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, mostly young immigrant women, seamstresses, workers who showed up to do their jobs and never made it home. They were trapped, doors were locked, safety was ignored, and profit was placed above people. That tragedy was not inevitable. It was a failure of responsibility. But what followed matters just as much. Workers organized, families demanded accountability, and this state made a choice. We passed laws, we strengthened protections, we began to say clearly that the dignity of work is not negotiable. That is the legacy of the Triangle Fire. Not just what happened, but what we chose to do about it. Because history does not move on its own. It moves when people decide that things must change and that responsibility now belongs to us. Today, the details may look different, but the question is the same. Today, many of the workers most vulnerable to exploitation are still immigrants. The Irish and Eastern European immigrants of that era are the Central American, South American, and African immigrants of today. People who come here to work, to build, to care for their families, and who too often are made to feel invisible or afraid to speak up when something is wrong. The conditions may look different than they did in 1911, but the underlying question has not changed. Who is protected and who is left exposed? Honoring those workers means more than remembrance. It means doing the work. enforcing our labor laws, strengthening safety standards, protecting immigrant workers, making sure that no one has to choose between their livelihood and their life. Because the promise of New York has never been abstract. It is that if you work hard, you can live with dignity. And that promise only holds true if we are willing to uphold it. Today, we remember those 146 workers, and we recommit ourselves to the responsibility their lives demand of us, to make sure no worker in New York is ever treated as expendable again. Thank you, Madam President. I vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Jackson on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, we must mark a solemn anniversary, one that continues to demand our conscience and our actions. And though we gather here in Albany, the echoes of that day in 1911 still reach us, reminding us that what happened in the factory in New York City was not distant from government, but a failure of it. Young immigrant women, workers whose labor powered a growing city, were met not with protection, but with peril. Locked outdoors became death sentences. Smoke became testimony, and from the horror rose demand that this nation could no longer ignore that workers are not disposable, the women are not invincible, and that immigrants are no strangers to the American story. They are central to it. And this tragedy forced the country to confront the brutal course of exploitation. It awakened a conscience that helped shape labor protections we now consider fundamental. Safer workplace, the right to organize, the dignity of the weekend, the promise of Social Security. These were not gifts. They were victories carved from grief, courage, and collective struggle. And so this resolution is not only about remembrance, it is about responsibility. It is time when immigrants were still vilified, when labor is too often devalued, when hard-won protections are treated as negotiable. And we are reminded that progress is never permanent unless we defend it. To honor the Triangle workers is not a look back, but is a stand guard to ensure that no workers is trapped between a paycheck and their safety, and that no door is ever locked against justice again. Memory is not passive, it is a mandate. For those who perished from the moment they ignited, and for the future are duty-bound to protect, I vote aye on this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to Senator Ramos for this important resolution. I'm going to look at this through a different lens, and I often I look at things through the lens of my children. And this past weekend, my daughter and my oldest daughter, Giada, we were speaking about this because she's learning about this in school. And so when I realized this resolution was coming on today, I sent her a message and I said, hey, can you tell me what is it that you got from there? And she gave me some facts that she said. This is my 11-year-old daughter, and these are her exact words. The fire killed 146 people and was one of the deadliest workplace accidents in the history of New York City. All but 17 of the dead people were women, most of them immigrants looking for a better life in the Gilded Age. I'm going to stop right there for a second and see the parallel of people coming to this country to seek prosperity, to seek positivity. And by virtue of unfair and unethical working conditions, their lives were taken. This fire started on the 8th floor, and people were oblivious to the fire because of the loud equipment, and due to the poor working conditions, there was no way of escaping. After the fire, a factory investigating commission was created and held 59 public hearings, listened to 472 witnesses, and the information and stories filled over 7,000 pages. It's really important that sometimes we don't realize the gravity of what we do and how, history in the context of what we do is really important. Yes, I'm speaking about my 11-year-old daughter, who I'm incredibly proud is learning about the labor movement and social equity and social justice. But what we do on this floor and what we do for the people of the great state of New York, we should always be proud of it, that these are things that will stand the test of time, and we have to make sure that people understand how that happened, why it happened, and be resolved that we never permit this to happen again. Workers' rights are incredibly, important. They're crucial, and if we need to let people have decent lives, we need to be able to let people work in respect, decency, and to have them have great working conditions. So for those reasons, I support this resolution, and I'm thankful to my daughter Giada for having, the prescience, so to speak, to be able to have had this lesson. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ryan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to Senator Ramos for bringing this up, our esteemed labor chair. Thank you. So I just want to make today we remember those 146 workers, but I want to make sure that we all know that this fire and this tragedy did not go without not just consequence, and make sure that their sacrifice wasn't just in vain, and it became a real turning point in a fight for workers in workplace safety. The Triangle Fire exposed the dangerous conditions faced by workers in the early 20th century. We heard it: locked doors, unsafe exits. They didn't even have fire escapes, overcrowded factories. But this tragedy led to the outrage that led to reforms, including stronger workplace safety standards, fire codes, and labor protections. The tragedy directly impacted the creation of workers' rights organizations, labor laws that paved the way for OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. In response to the tragedy, New York State launched the Factory Investigation Commission, which conducted in-depth inspections of industrial workplaces. Their findings led to at least 30 new labor laws, setting a precedent for state and federal reforms. The fire also helped fuel momentum for child labor laws, setting minimum work ages and set minimums or maximums for young workers and their hours. Although we have made great strides in workplace safety, unfortunately today, more than ever, labor rights are under threat. As a 28-year card-carrying union member, a labor advocate, labor leader, you have to understand that these fights and these issues are not behind us. As a lawmaker, I believe we have a responsibility to always stand with workers, not corporations that put profits over safety. We must ensure as lawmakers that history does not repeat itself in the manner that this tragedy happened. No worker, and Senator Ramos said it, no worker should ever have to risk their life to earn a living. So on this 115th anniversary, I want to reaffirm my commitment to protecting workers, ensuring safe workplaces, and strengthening labor laws, and I certainly invite my colleagues to do the same. Thank you very much. I vote aye.
Thank you. Senator Mayer on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Ramos, for introducing this resolution. I rise to support it to commemorate the 115th anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire and to honor the individuals, 146 workers whose lives were lost, most of them young women and girls, largely Italian and Jewish immigrants. This past January, I had the honor of receiving the Clara Lemlich Public Service Award from the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire Memorial, a scholarship fund which provides scholarships to the children of workers who are killed or injured on the job. An award carrying the legacy of Clara Lemlich, a fearless labor leader and a woman, I would note, who organized garment workers and demanded fair wages and humane working conditions despite physical attacks, intimidation, and attempts to silence her by factory owners. She persisted, and in 1909, ironically, she inspired 20,000 garment workers to go on strike, which lasted till 1910 and resulted in better wages and working conditions for the members of the ILGWU. But unfortunately and tragically, the owners of the factory for the Triangle Fire did not participate in the industry agreement. And as a result, in 1911, those 146 people died. I think there's a lesson to be learned there. We enact laws in response to this, as my colleagues have said, but we demand that employers follow these laws. And whether it's a voluntary agreement or a requirement by statute, we are here today to say these are not optional, as my colleagues have said. These are not if you can. These are mandatory requirements that they are followed to protect our neighbors, our workers, and so many of our immigrant workers in this moment as they were not followed then. Thank you. I vote aye.
Thank you. Senator Rhodes on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. As the ranker on the Senate Labor Committee, I rise in support of the resolution. It is incredibly important to recognize that the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire was a seminal moment, not just in the history of New York State, but in the history of this country. For those who are unfamiliar with the story, though I think most in this room are, the fire in the Shirtwaist Factory occupied the 8th to 10th floors of that building. Exit doors were locked to prevent workers from taking unauthorized breaks and prevent theft. There were no sprinklers in the building. The fire escape, the one fire escape that they had, and there was a question as to whether it was properly secured to the building or not, twisted in the heat of the fire, making sure that that could not be used as an escape route. And unable to escape the growing inferno, people resorted to trying to climb down elevator shafts, only to fall to their deaths in those shafts. People jumped out windows, falling to their deaths. In total, 146 victims, ranging in age from 14 to 43 years old, lost their lives. But the response was incredibly important. The response prompted not only the modern labor movement, but the response prompted so many legislative changes that brought attention to the plight of workers and the safety of workers, but also brought actual, tangible results. Frances Perkins, who was a witness to the fire, actually advanced legislation as part of the ILGWU and the Committee on Public Safety that they formed, which actually created the 54-hour bill, limiting the number of work hours that could be worked in a week, was instrumental in the New York State Legislature's creation of the Factory Investigating Committee. And they started with the issue of fire safety. That committee produced 64 bill recommendations, 60 of which were actually enacted by this body. Everything that we take for granted today, from modern labor laws to building access and egress, fireproofing requirements, availability of fire extinguishers, the installation of alarm systems, automatic sprinkler systems, were all the result, ultimately, of this particular fire. Unions fought for better working conditions. Ultimately, it led to the creation of elevator regulations, modern fire codes, the modern New York State Industrial Code, and ultimately, OSHA regulations. As Frances Perkins became the Commissioner of Labor here in New York State, enacting that first industrial code under the Roosevelt administration, and then wound up becoming the first female cabinet secretary in the history of the United States as the United States Commissioner of Labor, enacting those first OSHA standards. Today is not only a day to remember the 146 lives that were lost, but it's also an opportunity to recognize that those lives were not lost in vain, and that the fight does continue. We have a responsibility in this chamber and across our country to ensure that workplace safety, not only in private industry, but even in our own state facilities, is paramount. And let's use this as an opportunity to recommit ourselves to that effort. Thank you, Madam President. I vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Fernandez on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to Senator Ramos for this truly important resolution. 150 years this tragedy happened, but the feelings that we have retelling the stories, the emotions that we exude in putting ourselves in that place, it really is a lot, and it can make you emotional. It should make you emotional, and it should make you determined to make sure it never happens again. And everyone had said a great piece about the changes that we did, and Senator Ramos, even after her speech, shared that our fire trucks, now the ladders had to extend to certain heights because during that fire, they could only get to the second floor and they couldn't get into the building to save the people. So on this 150th anniversary, I too recommit myself because still workers are working in dangerous conditions. Still, we don't have the proper safety measures, and still dignity is being fought to make sure that every worker can survive in their job and continue to live dignified lives. So I'm truly grateful for this resolution, and I thank Senator Ramos for bringing it to the floor today.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was adopted on March 24th. Senator Gianaris.
Now let's move on to previously adopted Resolution 1664 by Senators Gallivan and Zellner, and read its title and begin by calling on Senator Gallivan, please.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1664 by Senator Gallivan, mourning the death of Jonathan A. Dandies, president of Rich Baseball Operations, inductee of the Buffalo Baseball Hall of Fame, and devoted member of his community.
Senator Gallivan on the resolution.
I rise, Madam President, to honor the extraordinary life and legacy of Jonathan A. Dandies, a man who touched countless lives in Western New York and whose spirit continues to inspire. Born in Queens, he chose Buffalo as his home over 50 years ago and was a person whose commitment to excellence, compassion for others, and unwavering integrity set him apart as a true leader and friend. His dedication to his work, his community, and his family, Marcy, Leo and Lizette, Aaron and Adam, Luca and Leaf, was evident in everything he did. John approached every challenge with humility and determination, always seeking to lift those around him. His kindness knew no bounds, whether mentoring, volunteering, or befriending. He showed us the power of empathy, generosity, and community-mindedness. Countless people in Western New York have been the beneficiary of John's good deeds and are forever grateful for the ways he enriched their lives and our community. John was a Buffalo Baseball Hall of Famer and longtime president of Rich Baseball Operations. He was instrumental in the design and opening of then Pilot, now Salem Field. His community services was vast. He served as a chair of numerous organizations, including the Ralph C. Wilson Explore and More Children's Museum, the Shays Performing Arts Center, the Buffalo Niagara Partnership, the Buffalo Zoo, the Erie County Medical Center, Visit Buffalo Niagara, and the Upstate New York Transplant Services Foundation. He was also a past president of the New York State Restaurant Association. A long-surviving kidney transplant recipient, he was a director of the National Kidney Foundation, and as a 1974 University at Buffalo graduate, he was the longest-serving member of the UB Council. In 2017, the Buffalo News named John an outstanding citizen of Western New York. John had an uncanny ability to bring people together, to forge bonds, and to remind us all through his good example of the importance of community. His legacy is not only in the work he accomplished, but in the hearts he touched and the lives he changed. As John's daughter, Erin, recently said, if you made memories at the Bisons, Canal Side, Outer Harbor, Shays, Explore and more, then he touched your life in some way. As we celebrate and honor the remarkable life of a true community leader, we would all do well to carry forward his values and honor him by striving to emulate his good example. It is my great privilege, Madam President, to present and support this resolution honoring one of the finest people Western New York has ever seen, my dear friend, Jonathan A. dandies. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Zellner on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Galvin. Unlike Senator Ryan's father, I'm pretty sure John's family is watching this right now. I want to thank them for all they've done for our community and loaning him to us. This resolution is about the kind of impact one person can have on a community over time. And Senator Galvin has already said a lot about John's contributions to our community, but what stands out to me is how people in Buffalo experienced that impact, not through the titles he had, but through what he helped create, a downtown ballpark that brought life back into a city, a place where families gather, where memories are made, and where you feel a sense of pride in our city. And beyond that, he showed up across our cultural institutions and across our healthcare systems and organizations. He stayed involved and he stayed committed, and that matters, especially for his family, because we think about his family, especially Leo and Aaron and his grandchildren. His legacy is something that our entire community can see and feel. It's in Buffalo, it's in the places he helped build, in the community he helped strengthen. That's something lasting, and it's something meaningful, and I join my colleagues in extending my condolences to his family and vote aye on this resolution.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was adopted on March 5th. Senator Gianaris.
Madam President, let's open today's resolutions for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator
I
Gianaris.
have a motion here on behalf of Senator Harkam on page 29. I offer the following amendments to Calendar 532, Senate Print 9020B, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
Please take up the calendar.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 116, Senate Print 3443 by Senator Harkam, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sukad, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 327, Senate Print 3758 by Senator Clear, an act to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sukad, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 327, voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Kazan Fitzpatrick, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Martins, Matera, Murray, Ort, Rhodes, Walczak, Weber, and White. Ayes 46 and nays 13.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 330, Senate Print 6475 by Senator Clear, enactment of the public housing law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day if it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sukad, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 333, Senate Print 6970 by Senator Adabo, enactment of the tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sukad, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 348, Senate Print 8276 by Senator Harkam, enactment of the public officers law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sukad, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 348, voted in the negative, Senator White. Ayes 58, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 438, Senate Print 70 by Senator Kavanaugh, enactment of the banking law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day if it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sukad, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 438, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Kazan Fitzpatrick, Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Rawson, Stack, Tedisco, Walzett, Weber, and White. Ayes 39, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 468, Senate Print 5177 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the executive law.
The bill will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 470, Senate Print 8357 by Senator Sanders, an act to amend the state finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Zoner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 470, voted in the negative, Senator Walzett. Ayes 58, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 471, Senate Print 3518 by Senator Scarcella Spanton, an act in relation to establishing the Fentanyl Abuse and Overdose Prevention Task Force.
Read the last section.
Section 7, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Zoner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 484, Assembly number 4677B by Assembly Member Jackson, an act to amend the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect January 1st, 2028.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Zoner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 497, Senate Print 900 by Senator Martinez, an act to amend the local finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Zoner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 502, Senate Print 7677A by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the town law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Zoner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 566, Senate Print 413 by Senator Gurnardez, an act to amend the general obligations law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 60th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sue Zoner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 566, voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Cancellieri Fitzpatrick, Chan, Gallivan, Griffin, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Montero, Murray, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Rawson, Steck, Tedisco, Walzett, Weber, and White. Ayes 40. Also Senator Ashby. Ayes 39, nays 20.
The bill is passed. Senator Giannaris, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I move to adjourn until tomorrow, baseball opening day.
Yeah.
Thursday, March 26th at 11 a.m.
Let's go Mets.
Yes.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, March 26th at 11 a.m.